everyone, Jess here at Devine D-Zine, and I thought today we'd talk a little bit about the Arbor press. This is a 1 ton from Harbor Freight, and we are going to get some detailed stamps and stamp their impressions using the Arbor press, and also we are going to use the help of a big hammer, because as much as the Arbor press works to help you with your impression, to get the middle of your stamp is really difficult, even just squishing it. So today we have got Little Freckles Fairy, which is sold by Little Freckle in the UK, but also sold by Beaducation. We're going to do this bouquet flower by Beaducation, which is a favorite of a lot of people, but they have a hard time getting a good impression. And the last one will be the detailed mandala stamp, I think it's called. It's also the one that is used to do the dream catches. Okay. So I've got with me a piece of annealed metal. It's copper. It's thin. It's 24 gauge. And it's actually better to have thicker metal when you are trying to get a detailed stamp's impression, because the more metal you have, the more your stamp can sink into that metal to give you a crisp, clear impression. Just reach around to get my big hammer. So we're going to get the best impression we can with these. Let's start with, okay, there's the bouquet. This is what I call a boom. I don't know what it's actually called. I just call it that. I've got my stamp, and I'm going to position it so that the metal is centered underneath the boom, the part that I want to stamp, and that my stamp is centered underneath it. So as tempting as it is to put it up here, I can't actually reach it like that. So I'm going to pull it down here, get it all nice and even and lined up. And when I do that, I am going to pull down, pulling on this lever. You can use a longer bar and attach it to this one. And the longer your bar is, the easier it will be to pull down and squish that impression in. So I've got it full on, and while it's full on and I squish down, I'm also going to use my really big hammer. It's a 3 pound, 2 pound on the boom, once or twice. I've got to move my light. All right, here we go. Now I'm going to raise the boom a little, tilt my stamp, place it. Okay, so it's tilted back. I have my boom on the middle of my stamp here. I'm pulling down, lift the boom to the side, pull down, lift the boom, pull down, lift the boom, pull down, and then one last time, I'm just going to pull down as hard as I can, and let's see what kind of an impression we got. Can you see that? We've got a really nice, crisp impression there. And we did get all the detail. Alright, let's try on the other side. So this piece of metal now was annealed, but now it's hard where the stamp stamped it. We're going to go to the other side, which is still very soft because we haven't stamped it. Stop. Alright, now we're going to use the Little Freckle Fairy. She's a difficult one. I use her a lot, but it is hard to get a good impression with her. Again, if my metal was thicker, I would have an easier time getting an impression. Alright, I'm going to move the light and give it a good pounding, or 2 or 3. And now raise the boom, tilt, squish, raise the boom, tilt, squish, raise the boom. When you raise this boom, you need to make sure that you have a good hold on your stamp so that it doesn't move. If it lifts off the impression, you're going to get a double impression. And my last side. And then flat one more time for a pull down. Now here we go. I'm going to move my stamp, and I'm going to see how well we did. All right, let's see. See if I could tilt it a little so you can get a good look. So if I get closer, you'll see that we didn't get all the details on her face, and just in here a little bit with her wings, we didn't quite get it all. The good thing about this though is that if I put this back, I can take my stamp, okay, and I can orient it back, because part of my impression is so deep, it's easy to reset my stamp into my impression because the feet hooked right in. So now I can push down on her again, leaning a little bit more towards where I know her face and her top of her wings are. And so I have it tilted back just a little bit. I don't know if you can see, it's not exactly straight. And I'm going to come back in with the big hammer. So I'm going to move the light. Take my stamp off. Oh. And you can see that although I did manage to seat the bottom, I still got a little bit of a double impression. Maybe not a little, maybe a little more than a little on her top. Oh well, it's trial and error. But there's our flower. That came out really well. There's our fairy. We did double stamp her. Okay, I've got a much chunkier piece of metal now. This is 16 gauge copper, and it's been annealed because I can move it still a little bit. I don't know if it's completely annealed because I didn't do it this time. I just grabbed it off my station, so we'll see. We'll see what kind of an impression we get. Alright, so there is the mandala stamp. Every time you see a teeny little pocket like these over here, those are going to be super hard to move metal out of. And because of that, that's why it's hard to get details there. So we're going to whack the heck out of this with the big hammer before we try the tilt and tap. Or tap and tilt, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So my metal is centered correctly. My stamp is centered underneath my boom. I was till I moved it. Okay. So I'm pulling down on my bar. I'm going to move my light. And now we will lift the boom and squish. Put it down, lift the boom and squish. Put it down, lift the boom and squish. Put it down, lift the boom and squish. And I'm going to peek before I lift this underneath to see if I got a middle impression that's good enough. I did not, so I'm going to put it back down there. Let's really get it right in the middle. Hold it tight. And now we'll see. If we didn't get a really good impression at this point, we'll probably have to anneal it again. Alright, here we go. Ready? Look at that. That's a nice deep impression. And we got the whole thing. I might have actually had it before. I did think it was a wee bit more detailed in the center than that. So I might have actually had the whole impression before. But deeper impression because thicker metal. More place for the metal to go. See that? Let's try our fairy, the freckle fairy, because we didn't get her before. Let's give her another chance. Here she goes. She is one of my favorites. I do love her. Alright, first I'm just squishing to make sure my metal is flat. I'm going to move my light. like we missed a little bit of her at the bottom. Right over here. Right there. But we got a really nice one of her face and the top of her wings. Let's try again to see if we can fix her. And I'm just going to take, so I know that her feet and her wings, I could see the impression right there. So I'm just going to try to feel until my stamp sits in there. And this time I want to make sure that it sits in the whole thing. So up, down, all around, I can't move it. So let's try and see if we can get her bottom better. That was just metal against metal. Nothing broke. My stamp is still fine. Okay, so let's see. We did it. No double impression. So there's some fire skill there, but we did get all of her legs and her arms. There we go. You can see our double stamping a little bit better. The mandala and the fairy. I just took them over to the mini bench grinder and used the polishing wheel on it so that you could see the details that we got. I even kind of did that double stamped one so that you could see the double stamping better. So we seated her bottom nicely, so there wasn't as much of a double stamp. And it almost kind of looks like her wings are fluttering, so it's not that bad. But here she is perfect. Isn't she adorable? This mandala is beautiful. There you go. So that's the Arbor press. Thanks for stopping by.